running.
So that's Mary Bradbury in an interview I did with her last May. I asked her about her first triathlon experience.
I was living with 3 girlfriends downtown, and I swam in college, and I continued to swim a little bit afterwards, like once or twice a week here and there, and she was a runner, so she ran all the time, and then there was bike. Out of the blue, she's like, let's do a triathlon. Like, I don't really know what that is. She's like, come on, let's do it. So we did a sprint race, I think it was Danskin, and I killed her on the swim, she killed me on the run. We had within 1 second on the bike,
Really?
and she hasn't done one since.
Really?
Yeah, and I got hooked right there.
Wow.
So that race was in 1997. And my huge surprise at Mary's friend having never done another triathlon is because this is Mary now. Since then, she's competed in over 100 triathlons, finishing as high as 8th in the world at the half Iron distance. Now she works full-time as a triathlon coach here in Chicago. So I'm Matthew Glibbery, and with my thesis, I went to Mary's story inspired me to explore the things that can make or break that first triathlon or running experience that could cause such disparate outcomes, like Mary is literally changing her life while her friend never did another race. So this term and last term, I talked with a lot of other people about their early triathlon and running experiences. And one really interesting moment emerged that people kept bringing up, and that was the moment of being passed. So here's what Anant and Matt Swanson had to say at the finish line of the Krispy Kreme 5K.
There's more people that were going slowly, like, not the one that far. For me, it was like someone slightly better than me. That's what I want.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, to push yourself a little bit.
In a competition.
I totally agree, yeah. I was following a guy who looked super athletic, who had a stroller. So it's like, so he had a little bit of a handicap.
So there are a few things going on there that I kept hearing throughout my interviews, with the main theme being that for beginners, the race is external. And I'll explain what I mean by that by defining the opposite. So for an experienced runner, they enter the race having done races before, probably at this distance. They know the splits, and they have a specific goal that they're racing toward that day. So for them, the race is very internal. They're focused on beating that time and racing themselves, ignoring what anyone else is doing. But for someone without that history, the opposite is true. They see the people around them, and they feel like they're racing those people. So when you're being passed, not only frequently, but by people who are shorter than you, or older than you, or seemingly less fit, that can be a pretty painful experience. And that's really a result of the training, the way that beginners train. They do it by feel. So you go out for a run, and you run as long as you feel like running at a pace that's comfortable that day. So you get to race day with no clearly defined expectations. The second thing you heard is with pacing. Both of them talked about pacing themselves in the race based on other competitors. But that's so different from the way that they've been training, where it's been very internal, very much how they're feeling. So this leads to some problems, primarily starting too quickly. And then towards the end of the race, you slow down, you get passed a lot, and then you feel really slow for having been passed a lot. So the problem there is that it's the race day. They see it as different than all the other training runs and behave as if it's different. So all of a sudden, they've been training using their body as a measure of their performance, and now their body is being influenced by the feeling of racing and by the adrenaline, and so they're not getting an adequate form of feedback to help them judge how fast they should be running. So beyond my insights and observations, there's some science behind this. Primarily, the cognitive evaluation theory in psychology argues that competence is 1/2 of the ingredients needed for intrinsic motivation to continue participating in the sport. So if you go back to Mary's story, where in her first race, she's being told by other competitors how well she's doing, she's going to leave that experience feeling really confident and really motivated to continue doing that. But for people who are racing those around them and losing, the opposite would be true. They'd be less motivated to ever do that again and could end up in a situation like Mary's friend. So my goal was to internalize the race for beginners, help them set a realistic goal that they can race toward while maintaining that training by feeling approach instead of forcing them to turn it into a science like it is for many experienced runners. And then second, I wanted race day to be just like any other training run. It's not something different, it's something you've prepared for. And to do that, giving them the right real-time feedback on their performance versus this goal that they're racing toward. And this problem really reminded me of a game a lot of us played growing up, and maybe still play it, called Mario Kart, which lets you race against previous versions or previous times of yours as a ghost. So it's ignoring what anyone else is doing and allowing you to focus on improving your own performance. So that was the vision that really inspired the PACEBELT. So the PACEBELT is a heart rate monitor that connects to your phone through ANT+, but it's got four vibration motors to give you a whole new type of feedback on your performance versus that goal. So before you go on a run with the PACEBELT, you go into the app and you set a goal for that run. So getting into this habit allows you to show up on race day with a very clear expectation of your finish time. Then once you're running with the PACEBELT, you get vibrations that indicate where you are relative to that pace. So you'll see here, this guy's being passed by his pace. So the vibrations are quickening and intensifying as the pace approaches, then going silent as he's even, and then as the pace pulls ahead, he feels that the pace is moving further away. So what is on pace? Well, because there's a lot of ways to end with this average pace. You know, you could do it this way or this way or this way, but current GPS watches and smartphone apps expect you to run like this. But that's just not the case. So the PACEBELT has this intelligent window. Since beginners are prone to starting out too quickly, it has a really tight window at the beginning to make sure that you don't get off too quick. And then in the middle, it opens up to let you find your own pace before pushing you at the end to a pace that will allow you to hit your goal. And since it has heart rate monitor integration, it's also watching you so that if you're at your max heart rate, it's not going to continue to push you beyond what makes sense physiologically. So how is this different or better than those GPS watches or smartphones? It's really in the same way that reading that the temperature is 48 degrees is different than feeling that with your skin. So the goosebumps require a response. You need to do something to warm up. And that's the same thing when you see that over the last mile you averaged 7 minutes and 1 second. Is different than interacting with that pace in real time. Additionally, interacting with a watch or anything external is going to pull you out of the moment of running. Whereas the PACEBELT, giving you this feedback that's coming from your core, is actually interacting not with the device, but with the information itself. So I chose to brand this as a Nike Plus product because Nike already has this large community of runners who use their smartphone to run with this Nike Plus app. They also have this rich set of data that right now you can only interact with digitally. But the PACEBELT would allow you to select a previous run of yours that you can now race against. So it's really bringing that Mario Kart vision to life. So by training with the PACEBELT, you arrive at the start line with a clear expectation of what pace you want to hit that day. So you're better able to internalize that experience and hopefully more motivated to reach that goal.